Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are now live on Sportswire Radio. We're on sportnarium.com/player here on YouTube and Twitter. And we're with the guys here hanging out for a little while on a Friday night, joined here by Justin Gianelli, Chris Bizet, who was reminding me the New York Knights was actually from the natural. I was thinking it was the old Arena Football League that played in the Coliseum and the theater at Madison Square Garden some
Weren't they
years
the
ago.
Dragons or something? The Red
Dragons.
Dragons.
Rob Maraska, Billy McInerney back once again, and the brute force Brad Weiss, who needs no introduction. And fellas, happy Friday, and hope we're all well tonight.
I'm pretty good.
I'm good.
All right, Rob Maraska, you're going first because you got this contest here. So for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, tell us this winner because I'm sure somebody's not going to know till tomorrow. But let us know anyway who's going to actually win this latest contest that you have.
There's not going to be a winner until next week. I just got a card. I just got a bunch of cards today, so I got to sort them out.
You got to sort them out. All right. Well, you know what? Then maybe we'll see next week.
Yeah, definitely next week.
All right, cool.
For the other card. So I'll talk about it next week.
Awesome. Yep. Anthony Finkel says he finally won a contest. Maybe, maybe not. He's checking in from Washington, D.C. I certainly pity you for that. But, let's go here. Obviously, a lot to talk about here. We're getting ready for the Major League Baseball trade deadline here in a little over a week. And I say hello here to my very good friend, Mr. James Taylor, the Nemesis. And I know, the Nemesis, you're looking forward to me to talk some wrestling here. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you see it, that'll be Sunday night with Mr. Captain Law, somebody you know very well, Mr. Taylor. But going over here, because the guys here are baseball analysts, and talking about the Major League Baseball trailer. I think about 10 or 11 days or so now, mathematically, depending on where you fall on the calendar. With the trade deadline, I guess for what it's worth, the Yankees get a much-needed win over the struggling Kansas City Royals. And Chris Bizet, it has been a topsy-turvy week for the Yankees. One of the worst, I would say, span of days the Yankees have had in maybe my lifetime, or maybe since the end of the 2000 regular season. But that season was going on to win a World Series. So, Chris, does this Yankee win here maybe propel us, or what's your thoughts here? And the Yankees get a much-needed win here over the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, no, I don't think this team is getting to the World Series this year.
No.
No, they're not looking too good right now. And an ugly win against Kansas City is not going to change things. It's nice to win a game finally after losing a bunch in a row here, like 5 or 6 or whatever. But, it was an ugly win. But we'll see. Maybe this will change things around. I mean, you still got guys not hitting, right? Rizzo is still not hitting. He's still like an automatic out. DJ as well. So, it was nice to get McKinney
on such a terrible stretch here. I mean, I want to talk about
so bad. And McKinney had a great game. Two nice catches and a 3-run home run. But you know what? He's feeling the heat because all these other guys are in AAA and AA. Getting ready to, to come back. You got Bowers in rehab assignment. You got Greg Allen. You got Calhoun, and Judge is somewhere. He keeps saying, he doesn't know when he's coming back, but he's coming. He's getting closer because he's starting to work out. I think his next step is live batting practice. So we'll see. I don't think tonight changes anything. It was nice to get the win, obviously, to beat Kansas City, because if you lose at home to Kansas City, I mean, that's about as bad as you can get.
The Angels were struggling mightily
in
their own right, and the Yankees get swept by them. So you almost can't even put it past anybody. Oakland kind of held their own against Boston this past week.
Yeah, the Yankees, though, offensively, they're just awful. Their bullpen is starting to show that they were overworked this whole season so far, So it's everything is catching up to them, and I don't see them being they're probably going to be busy at the trade deadline. I just hope they don't take on any bad contracts because they have 2 or 3 of them right now that that we can't get rid of. So we'll see. They're not out of it. They're only 3 games out of a wild card spot.
4 out going into tonight, and maybe luck 3 out. Yeah.
But the whole thing is, my thing is, even if they make a couple of moves and they make it to the playoffs, are they going far in the playoffs? Probably not. So I don't know. I think they should retool. I've been saying it for a while. Just retool this team. If you're gonna make moves, trade for guys that are young and controllable. Don't get the old contracts, a rental, none of those. But we'll see. It'll be interesting how this next week or two works out, not just for the Yankees, but for the Mets and a couple other teams too. So
Well,
looking
the
forward
Mets,
to it.
we'll see. They're almost kind of in a slightly similar position, though a little bit back in the wild card. Let me ask you a follow-up question. I'm sure Brad's going to have an interesting take on it, as well as the rest of the guys. What did you make? I got to ask you, what did you make about Carlos Rodon and sort of that blowing kisses there to the Yankee fans out there in California? It was the topic of the national media, especially all throughout MLB Network on their radio shows yesterday. And I mean, what did you make of that? I mean, that's one of the more bizarre situations I've seen in a Yankee uniform in a long time.
I'll tell you what, thank God it wasn't in the Bronx. It was in Anaheim. So I think it's not as bad that it's out there. I think, listen, it's only his third start. I'm not going to say he's done or he's washed up or something like that. It's only his third start back. He only had 3 rehab starts. So this is basically like spring training for him. But I'll tell you what, his next start, if it's in the Bronx, he better pitch well because it's gonna get
supposedly going to be Wednesday against the Mets.
Yeah, and it's got a chance to become ugly. I don't know. I mean, I just hope I just hope for his sake he pitches well because if he doesn't, he's gonna he's gonna hear it. He may hear it no matter what. But
I think he's going to hear it no matter what. I think right now at this point he's going to hear it.
I think he needs to pitch well though. If he pitches well, it'll start to wear off quick. But if he doesn't, then it's going to be bad. And you know what? It's only going to be his 4th start. And 7th overall.
Well, he was supposed to come in here with a time when the Yankees really needed him, and you're in the thick of this race. And I mean, just a number of players here at this Yankees team. It's all gone wrong here. And Justin, obviously, Yankees have had a very, very difficult week. I mean, I guess get a win here maybe helps them out in the standings a bit, but certainly very difficult position this team is in going forward to next week's trade deadline. And I guess what did you make of the win tonight and where this team is at the moment?
I mean, they got kind of lucky, honestly. They kind of held on. It was actually a really nice heads-up play by Anthony Volpe at the end of the game with 2 outs, getting that ball deep in the hole. Well, he knows he's got no play at first. And so to go to third base and get Drew Waters at third to end the game, it was smart. It was heads up. But, the bullpen came close to blowing it again. They had a 5-3 lead. You give up a run in the 8th inning. And with less than 2 outs, Drew Waters still second base, and you have a runner in scoring position threatening to tie the game for the Royals. So, Holmes was able to hold on, but at the same time, nothing is coming easy for this Yankee team right now. They're just not really a good baseball team right now, and I'm not sure what exactly is going to change that. I know bringing Aaron Judge back, of course it's going to help, but I don't know that that's going to make Anthony Rizzo wake up. It's been now.
I mean, you want to talk about a stretch.
2 months and 1 day since the last home run.
What's it like 150 in that stretch or something like that? I mean, it's really, we're talking like Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks territory.
It's been since he hurt his neck again with that Tatis play at first base.
2 months now. Almost 2 months we're talking about.
Yeah.
2 months without a home run. Carlos Stanton's batting under 200. You got DJ LeMahieu, who looks like a complete stiff out there. I mean, they're just a brutal bunch. They're a brutal bunch, and I don't know that it's going to get that much better.
We're going to certainly,
not that he provides much offensively, but you get the news today that Jose Trevino is out for the year. I think it was a thumb issue or something. Wrist.
It's a wrist.
But he's done for the year. He's going to get surgery. They called up Ben Rortvedt. So it's going to be him and Higashioka. I mean, do the Yankees trade for a catcher? I don't know. I mean, how all in do you really want to go, knowing that you're not that close to a World Series? That's
I think this team is nowhere near a World Series, even if they sneak into the playoffs. I mean, you look at this team here, and Rob Moroska, I've got some comments, but I'll go to you. Yankees have certainly had a very difficult week, really one of the worst stretches the team has had in a long, long time here, and getting swept by the Angels and losing 2 out of 3 to the Rockies, and it's definitely been a very tough run here for the Yankees. And I guess they get a win for what it's worth tonight against the Royals, arguably the worst, or if not the worst team in baseball. And give me your thoughts on where this team is right now.
Yeah, it was an ugly win tonight, but it was a win. Hey, you want to know something? If San Diego is going to be sellers, maybe Sanchez could end up back on the Yankees.
No.
I'm only
No.
kidding.
That's a road we need
And
to
as
cross.
far as Rodin goes, you better watch out because if he pitches against the Mets in Yankee Stadium, the Yankee fans and the Met fans may bring some Hershey Kisses to throw at him on the field.
There you go.
That could happen. But the Yankees they're still close to a wild card berth. So they're not in the same position as the Mets. The Mets are just, luckily the Mets took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox, which is amazing, or else forget it, we'd really be going nuts. But the Yankees at least have a chance, and they can be buyers instead of sellers. We'll just have to see, within the next 2 weeks what the Yankees are going to do.
Well, we'll find out here. I got a bunch of comments, and I think some of the noise here in the background is coming from you, Billy McInerney. So if you got something in the background, if it's a fan or something, if you can turn it down, because I believe that's where the noise is coming from. But in the meantime, while we figure that out, I got some comments. Skulls the Soul Hunter, my guest next Tuesday, August the 2nd, says, hello, how you doing, Skulls? Anthony Finkel likes to say, I went to my first Mets game last week. That's your first game all time or just your first one in Citi Field? The Mets sucked, but Citi Field was awesome. There were more Dodger fans at Citi Field than Mets fans. Brutal. I watched the Mets once. It was terrible. All right, well, if you say you don't have anything, Billy, we'll try to get it going because I put you on mute. The noise was down, but we'll see how you go here with this. But the Yankees are definitely in a world of hurt right now. And I guess they're alive. There's a bunch of teams here kind of in the same spot as the Yankees. We'll have to see what happens. But give me your impressions of this team as they get a much-needed win, but certainly didn't do it in convincing fashion.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it's weird because they're in a strong division. Doesn't help them either, but they're not. I agree, Justin. I don't think they're a particularly good baseball team. I don't think they have been for a couple of years now. I think Aaron Judge has really kind of carried them further than they should have gone. I alluded to that last week. And frankly, I think the Yankees are too talented to be struggling like this. I know Aaron Judge is out hurt, but Anthony Rizzo shouldn't be going 2 months without home runs. It's the pitching shouldn't be this hit or miss. And I know Yankees fans have been calling for Aaron Boone to be fired since like 2019, but if they finish last, in the division with a winning record, I don't see how Aaron Boone survives.
Yeah,
a fifth place finish in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think obviously we've got 64 games left of baseball after today, and even if you go 32-32, 83-79 might get you in last place this season.
It's funny because that was the record that the Mets won the division with in 1973. The Yankees might lose the division with it. But I think at this point, with how much they're paying Aaron Judge, how much they're paying Garrett Cole, Hal Steinbrenner is not his father. He is not willing to keep spending money hand over foot to try and put a winner together. So I don't think Cashman's in any danger. He's been there so long. I think he has a good relationship with Hal Steinbrenner, but I do think Aaron Boone is very much on the hot seat if they miss the playoffs.
And I think even if they somehow finish below 500 or in last place, I mean, he's definitely on the ropes because somebody has to pay for this. And I do think, in a way, Steinbrenner has spent something on this team because Rodani spent a lot of money on it. Judge, he re-signed. Stanton's on the hook for a lot of money. I mean,
they have, I think, the second highest payroll in baseball. It's not like they're not spending the money, but, I think George Steinbrenner would have said, go get Ohtani, go get, just keep throwing money at. I don't know how I'll do that. And I think it's funny because I think George Steinbrenner was known for firing managers, but I think he was more of he's going to fire a manager kind of on a whim. I don't like the way you looked at me, so you're gone.
Well, in his later years, I think he changed a little because, remember, Torrey had 12 years there. We saw Girardi was there for 10, and Aaron Boone's been there for 6. So the Yankees weren't the way they were back when Rob and Chris might have remembered.
No,
They've been
definitely not.
franchise, really.
Definitely definitely different than when George Steinbrenner was there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They've been a model franchise in a lot of ways. I mean, they really,
Yeah.
them and the Cardinals have been model franchises in baseball.
And you know what? And to be honest, I'm not blaming Boone for that. I'm not saying Boone should be manager of the year either, but it's not his fault what's going on. I mean, the roster, like you're saying, DJ's not hitting. Rizzo's not hitting.
I mean, Rizzo, my
Ken's
God.
not hitting. Yeah. I mean, that's what's the problem. And what can he do? He's going to sit those guys and let Cordero hit or, McKinney. McKinney had a great game today, but, he's really got no options. He's playing the guys that are supposed to do the job, and they're not doing it. So I don't blame Boone. Yeah, he's not great. Trust me. I'm not saying he's a good manager, but it's not his fault why this team is losing. It's Cashman more than anybody. He's the real
right, and I
problem.
agree with you on that. And I think that Cashman, we have pretty much answered. I don't think he's going to.
But I think what people aren't realizing is if they're going to get rid of Aaron Boone in the offseason, guess what's going to happen? They're gonna hire another one just like Aaron Boone.
Right.
It's
an
gonna
analytical
be
guy.
much of the same.
Right.
It's gonna be another Cashman puppet, and that's what Aaron Boone is.
Well, I mean,
So,
Texas hired Bochy this year, and
and-
what a turnaround Texas has done. So you can't say that
And you know
necessarily.
what?
But you knew that they were going to kind of go for the veteran, the way they were spending money. Obviously, things weren't working with Chris Woodward there. Their last couple of managers, they had some success. A few managers back with Ron Washington, but
Yeah.
but then they hired Jeff Bannister. Things didn't really work out, and then they hired Chris Woodward. Things didn't really work out. Especially last year, winning 68 games, gave them reason to fire.
But a team that certainly was going to
And it
be
gave them reason to
And they're
fire
spending money
Woodward.
now too, Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they started last year
Right.
spending money with Seager and Simeon. They win 68 games. They fire Woodward. They hire Bochy. They bring in all this pitching with DeGrom, who's obviously out.
Pitching helped a lot.
Andrew Haney, Nathan Eovaldi, and so on and so forth. And now they look like they're still in first place in the West, but they really haven't played all that great over the last couple of months. They're kind of coming back to the pack a little bit, but I still think that they're probably in the right spot right now. But as for the Yankees, I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that kind of outside the box hire, to be honest. And who's
We're
the
going
guy?
to find
anyway?
out. I mean,
But
listen, if
still,
the Yankees,
who's the guy?
Right.
well,
I don't
if
think.
you hear
And
John Gonzalez, he's always hemming and hawing about Don Mattingly. I mean, he said it on his Sports
it's
Authority.
great
group.
I don't. You know what? I would love to see Mattingly back in pinstripes.
I mean,
but
Joe
I also
Girardi's
don't-
available. Would the Yankees bring Girardi back?
But I don't. No, I
Mattingly
doubt
wants the
that.
job, though.
I think he burned his bridges. But I don't. I don't want to see Mattingly come back to this mess because he's not going to be able to fix this mess. It's not the manager. It's more the GM. Get me a new GM. That's what we need.
Does Mattingly want? I mean, remember Mattingly left the Marlins partly because he wasn't happy with how much input the front office was having into lineup decisions. Is it going to be any different here with Cashman? I don't.
Yeah, but you could, I guess, if you're going to hear the John Gonzalez point, is that he was a former Yankee. There's something about being here and being a Yankee and returning and maybe finishing the career here.
He's risking a lot if he's going to become the Yankee manager. I mean, there is every possibility of damaging his Yankee legacy.
Right.
If things
I don't
don't
want
go
that.
if things don't go right, and you know what, I got to be
I
honest.
mean, Girardi was here though. He had some.
You know what? I got to be honest. And he made the playoffs a bunch of times with the Dodgers, but that was with the new Dodger ownership that's currently there now.
Yep.
The high payroll Dodgers had a good roster, but never did anything with it in the postseason. Couldn't make the postseason with the Marlins.
One playoff with the Marlins.
Right, the COVID
2020
2020
year.
year, they made the postseason.
Never had any real success.
I
with the
got to be
Marlins.
quite honest. I don't think Don Mattingly is a very good manager. I don't.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to find out here. And before I get to the Brew Force, Anthony Finkel would like to say speedy recovery, Rob. See you at Duffy's, but they're on vacation, so you're going to have to scrap that. Is Cashman ever going to be on the hot seat? Every season I hear he doesn't properly equip
He
the
should
team,
be.
and that's what these guys are talking about here because they're looking at it right now. This was a Yankee team that just about won 100 games last year. It was in the American League Championship Series, and we certainly didn't think that the outcome would be where the Yankees are, quite frankly, the Mets as well. But the Brew Force, Brad Weiss, I want to ask you a different take because I want to go back to Carlos Rodon because obviously you have been a player, you've been a coach, and this was one of the more bizarre situations I've seen in quite a while. Now, Carlos Rodon would make an excellent professional wrestler. He would make an excellent promo person with a promo package, but we're in Major League Baseball, and people want a little bit more professionalism and much more reserved and toned down points of view. So, Brad, I have to ask you, A, as a teammate, how would you react to what Mr. Rodon did on the field? And then B, if you were a coach or manager in that clubhouse, what would you say to him off the field and in private?
Yeah, well, first of all, hello, everybody, and welcome to the summer where Coach Brad Weiss loses his voice on Friday night.
That's trying to be respectful of everyone's time tonight.
That is number one, so get used to it. But I lose my voice because I lose my voice when I'm yelling at childish acts and behaviors from kids like Carlos Rodon's behavior. Okay, and Carlos Rodon's behavior deserves to be yelled at and disrespected. You just simply don't do that. Now, somebody who I have to mention, Tom Bryce, would do such an act, as much as we love him and I love him, okay? But James DeSimone would be a guy to do something like that, okay? And we'll have him on in about a month or so. And I want to make sure that's clear. That's a James DeSimone type of act, doing some sort of, kissing, some ridiculous things to the crowd. I mean, listen, that is embarrassing. And as a coach, you would address that right away. If it was me, I would address it right away. Because I remember, Tom, actually, this is a good point, because I remember, Tom, that there was a game, the JV season last year, where I actually didn't see an act that went on, but I actually got to go back to film and see my kid actually look at the crowd and shush him. And after the game, I addressed the kid. Okay, he actually had to do some running, some push-ups, some other things like that. And I said, this will not happen again. And we watched some video again. So I went right at it and addressed it, and discipline was handed down. So listen, that's how I think Rodon should be treated. There should be a very harsh conversation, for sure, because that is not acceptable. And now the funny thing is this, as Chris was mentioning, now you get a nice, easy opponent in the New York Mets to face in your next start. Okay, the team that has players batting at the Mendoza line, their best four hitter is batting 202. Okay, their fifth hitter is Daniel Vogelback. Okay, he was a lefty and can't hit for his life. I know he had a home run today. Woohoo! Let's throw a party that he finally hit one out. Okay, so anyway, he has a chance to shut the Yankee fans up with all the stuff that he deserves. He deserves it, but he can make them quiet if he goes out there and does well. It is not good as well when you're making these childish acts and you're not performing. The one thing I can say about my player that actually did that bad act, Tom Bryce, is that he had 25 points and led us to a win.
All right, so he had 25 points. So you might have told him, hey, listen, don't do that again.
And he got the game-winning and won. So he did have a reason. But Rodon has no reason to do this. He has no, say with Yankee fans or anything like that. It reminds me of the thumbs down nonsense that we have with the Mets. Okay, Rodon needs to get his stuff straight. Okay, or else they're going to run him out of town. They're going to let him hear it, as Chris Pizzea said. But again, you have everything going your way. You get to face the New York Mets. What are you going to do? Because if there's any lineup that you could go and mow down and shut them down, it is the New York Mets. Do it.
Well, we're going to certainly find out, and I guess we'll have to see if
you know what? When it's Yankees Mets, those stats get thrown out, right? Just like when the Mets, like whenever the Yankees play the Red Sox, it doesn't matter how bad or how good the teams are. It's always a close game.
Right, Mets, Phillies, Mets, Braves, Yankees,
listen, the way the Mets
Vogelbach probably won't start, right? Because it's a lefty starter.
Oh yeah, he won't start at all.
Right.
And if we're being completely fair, the Mets are not really playing a horrible baseball right now.
They're 9-5 this month, for what it's worth. They're 9-5.
That's not bad,
right?
I'll take that.
The problem is they need to be 14-1. That's their only issue.
It's also, I think, their pitching has been much more suspect than their offense recently, so it may not be a cakewalk for Rodon in that sense. The Yankees don't have no problem putting up runs against the Mets, but
the Mets were suspended tonight, I believe. They were up 4-3.
Yeah, 2:00 tomorrow. They're going to resume, and they pushed the 4:10 game to 7:10.
All right, well, we'll have to see if the Mets can get back on track. We'll definitely talk about them here in a little while. I want to say hello to Joe Dell of Sleepy Hollow, SHJOED, Sleepy Hollow Joe Dell. So I want to say hello to Joe out there as well. And, Kristen, I want to go back to the Yankees because obviously they're in this kind of cluster of these teams that are in this wild card race. The Angels is one of those teams who just swept the Yankees. The Mariners, the Red Sox, certainly. I heard you and Patrick talking earlier today on the Talking Rivals before I went live the first time today and spoke about Cutlery Championship Wrestling's Jam Dog and Walker Wall Street. number of other teams. The Blue Jays are ahead of the Yankees. I mentioned the Mariners, the Astros, and I guess for what it's worth, Cleveland, you could throw them in there in the mix. But I mean, so what are you looking for then this next week, week and a half to determine where this Yankees team is going to go?
Well, obviously the offense. The offense has to get going. You have to see Rizzo start to hit. DJ, Stanton, all these guys have to start hitting, because if they don't hit, I don't care who they add, it's not going to do nothing, right? Even if Judge comes back and all that, it's not going to do anything. And here's the other thing. Even if they make it to the playoffs, right? If they play well enough and get into the playoffs, they have not proven yet in the last few years to get it done in the playoffs. So I don't trust this team.
Last year, I guess you could say that that's the one LCS appearance, right, in the last
Right.
5 years.
I just don't trust this team to make it to do anything in the playoffs, even if they make it. That's why this team needs to retool. It's not a matter of, we need 2 players and we'll be good, or 2 players and we get Judge and this team is going to be, set up for the playoffs. I don't think so. And the bullpen looks like it's shot right now, So I personally would just retool this team and, not give up this year, but kind of retool this year with an eye towards next year and in the year after that as well. But I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with them making a run at the playoffs. I just don't see it in them.
So then, let's say we're going the retool route, because obviously I'm sure we'll speak about this on next week's show as well. I mean, who are you looking at to move that's worth anything in the retool route? Who's
right? That's right. That's the other thing. Who's really worth anything? Maybe Gleyber Torres. You know what? And there's a couple of guys that are free agents. You got Severino's going to be a free agent after this year. He's going to be gone, so you may as well trade him. Bader, are you going to give this guy an extension when he can't stay healthy?
Yeah,
So that's another guy. If you could get something for him, trade him. So, I mean, there are, and here's the thing, like there's movable pieces. You may not get much for them, but at least you got a lot of talent in the farm system. We're like 10th or 15th, depending on what, publication is writing it. So there is some there that you could trade to bring in guys that are major league ready, instead of having a guy in single A that like, in another year he'll be ready. So I think they should just retool this team, because they're not going anywhere. And they know they're stuck with Judge, not stuck, but they got Judge, they got Stanton and DJ, for the next few years, no matter what they do. Those guys,
especially the Stanton contract, is going to turn out to be an albatross.
It's 4 years left on his contract.
I mean, I wonder if it's going to be almost Miguel Cabrera territory with Stanton, because the guy can never stay healthy. And when he's on the field, I mean, he really hasn't done that much, nowhere near to the production he had even the first year of the contract with the Yankees. He had 39.
And for me, this goes back to Cashman on the decisions that he has made over these, the last, I would say, just the last 6 years. Since they got Stanton, it's been a snowball effect from there. They got Stanton, so they didn't go after Harper. They thought Andujar was going to be their third baseman in the future, so they didn't go after Machado. And those 2 guys, they could have just signed. They didn't even have to trade for those guys. And they end up, and look where we are now. And then, of course, the Donaldson trade was awful. I mean, that was just god-awful. So, and for me, when you look at Cashman, since 2009, since the last time they were in the World Series and won it, it's 14 years. And in those 14 years, half the league has been in the World Series since then, right? 15 teams have been there, and the Yankees haven't. And for a team that has either the highest payroll or the second highest payroll every single year, you should be in the World Series. And for a team that's their ultimate, that's their goal, World Series or bust every year. So to get, for me, Cashman should be on. Not that he should be on the hot, he should be gone by now, but he should definitely be on the hot seat, because he's not doing his job right. Any decent GM, if you give him the second highest payroll, whatever it is, like this year it's 270, you give a guy 270 million, I'm pretty sure they'll get at least a winning record or the playoffs every single year with that $270 million payroll. So what he's doing is not really that hard, but he's got to get this team to a World Series. I'm sorry. That's just, I don't know.
You want to know something, Chris? His time, it's like his time is up already. You
Right.
know, I think that it's just been too long, and the Yankees have to go in a different direction. But Hal Steinbrenner, I don't think he's going to get rid of Cashman. They're buddy, and
Right.
Yeah, 26 years,
He's like
right?
family
26
now.
seasons.
And that's the problem. Hal's fault. Hal is too loyal to a fault, right? He's just too loyal to his people, and he shouldn't be. I mean, I think eventually he's got to say, "All right, Cashman, take a different job," but GM may not be what you should be doing here.
Did Hal hire Cashman, or is he a holdover from when George was alive?
Yeah, he's been a holdover because he was there from the 90s.
In fact, he goes
1998
back.
was his first year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he goes back even into the early to mid 90s, I believe, in the organization. So he's been there a long time.
He's been the GM since the 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been the GM since 1998, and he was with the organization for a few years before that. So
that was exactly my point. So he's been there going on 30 years. There is no way right now they're replacing. Now, Boone is a different discussion. I want to say hello to Mr. John Gonzalez. He says Boone needs to go ASAP. Well, it sounds like that's what some people want. He also wants to say greetings to the Shohei Ohtani of the sports shows, the Brute Force Brightweights. Now, Brad, do you play multiple positions in basketball? Last I checked, you were really just a forward. I mean, unless I'm missing something.
He doesn't play. He doesn't play point guard too. I thought he was a point guard.
That's what I was
Hey,
wondering.
listen, back in the heyday, I could do it a little bit, but I do now play and coach, so if that counts.
All right, I'll give you that much here, and also want to
He's
give
a softball player, so he plays two sports.
That. I do want to give Chris another happy birthday again. Obviously, Chris's birthday was a couple days ago. I want to make sure everybody wishes Chris a happy birthday. Hope you had a great birthday. Hope you did something good, whether it was going to the movies or spending time with family. I hope you had a great birthday and many more birthdays ahead. Also, legendary managers have been fired by the Yankees in the past. No question about that. I mean, the Yankees, obviously, Billy Martin was multiple times. I mean, I guess depending on how you see it, Torre after 12 seasons. I mean, so the Yankees have fired managers. It'll be interesting to see where they go in another direction here. But we are on Sportswire Radio, and we're here speaking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball, including the New York Mets and the New York Yankees. And we're here with Justin Gianelli, Chris Bizet of the Talking Rivals and the Liftoff Jets. I have the Liftoff Jet Show. I will play it this weekend. We'll play it here a couple different times before I go live. Rob Maraska, also Billy McInerney back, and the aforementioned Brute Force Bradley Weiss. And my name again is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you're on Sportswire Radio on YouTube, I hope you continue to give us a follow. Gained over 100 new subscribers in the last month. Thank you very much for that. And also, we're on Facebook. Just recently passed the 500 like milestone there. Gained another 10 likes alone in the last couple of days. I thank everybody for that. Continue to like us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play, where we play shows like the Talking Rivals, like the Liftoff Jets, like the Baseball Banter when it was here, and other shows like the Devil's State of Mind, Pinstripe Chronicles, Sit Down Marks, you name it. You have a podcast, we play it. And I'll also be here again Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, with Captain Law or Jackson Law, depending on where you see him, in XCW, seen him in ROEW, seen him in many other companies, CWG, VCW, Ultimate Awesomeness Championship Wrestling. I've seen him in UAW, name them all. He's been there. We're going to talk about his journey, especially some of the most recent shows at XCW. Follow him on Instagram at LawDRL. That is LawDRL. Please give him a follow out there on Instagram. You can also check him out on YouTube. You can also check out some of his podcast work, merchandise, you name it. Follow Captain Law. But in the meantime, we are talking all things related here to the world of Major League Baseball. And I'll come back to you, Rob Maraska, and go back around with the guys, get a few more thoughts on the Yankees before I move on to the New York Mets and their cluster of a situation. So, Rob Maraska, I mean, also, we've got 10 more days with the trade deadline, and what do you think the Yankees need to show in order to be buyers or sellers?
Well, they have to win. I think the Yankees are going to be, right now, I think they're going to be buyers because they're so close to the wild card that, it's like I said before, it's different than the Mets. The Mets are just, the Mets are out of it. Let's just face it. But the Yankees still have a chance. The Yankees have talent. Aaron Judge gets healthy, becomes 100%, and the Yankees will be in the playoffs. Will they win the World Series? No. I don't think they
You sure the Yankees will be in the playoffs? Now, the last I checked, the Houston Astros and the Toronto Blue Jays are 54-43. So that means for the Yankees to get into the postseason, they're realistically going to have to go, let's say, 87-75, 88-74. What shows to you that the New York Yankees are going to play, let's say, 580, 590 ball this last, let's say, 2/5 of the season in order for them to return to the postseason?
I gotta be honest. I think 90 is going to be the last wild
No,
card.
if you do the safer, let's say 88. Let's go 88, right? That means you got to go 37-27 rest of the season. Let's say you got Houston and Toronto. One of those teams plays 500 hypothetically. So, I mean, you still got to win close to 60% of your games. So, what are you saying with this team that tells you that?
Toronto's got to win also, you know.
Right, but Toronto's the team, but they're in a wild card spot. So it's the Yankees that have to win the majority of the game. So what do you see from the Yankees?
Yeah, listen, if Stanton starts hitting, Judge is okay. You know, the Yankees still have a decent lineup. DJ, is he going to be bad for the rest of the year? If he is, well, then, you know, forget about it. But I think the Yankees have a chance. That's all I'm saying.
No, they definitely got a chance. I just don't know if you said they're going to go into the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to go into the postseason.
They have a chance to go into the playoffs.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
that's how I feel. The Yankees have a chance.
They definitely have a chance. Yeah, they have a chance. I would say they're in a cluster of teams here. And Anthony Finkel referring to a recent clip on my social media. No, it's actually a buried alive New York street fight, not a no-holds-barred cage death match. So just want to...
Yeah, Tom, what's going on here? What's going on?
Well, you'll have to find out this Sunday. You'll have to find out live here with the Captain Law itself. So, yeah, certainly a wrestler, a guy named CJ Black, calls himself a good guy, randomly decided he wanted to challenge me to a match because he was mad at his company. Yeah, he just wanted a match. And I responded in kindly. And safe to say, I got more people that watched my clip than his. And it's certainly been the talk of social media. And we'll have to see, and we'll see if this individual will respond. So far, he hasn't. He's just kind of thrown parting shots. And that's
maybe it'll be a Staten Island street fight.
Well, we call the New York street fight buried alive. The only way the winner walks out is alive on their own 2 feet. But this individual hasn't responded if he's going to go there. But I'll come back to Rob Maraska from John Gonzalez. He wants his Armando Benitez card. Who would even have an Armando Benitez card these days? I mean, I guess if you're like a Jose Mesa fan, maybe like Armando Benitez and Jose Mesa in that same territory. Rumor has it Anthony Finkel is switching to bounty towels. He needs a lot more than that figure of a towel because he's probably in Washington doing something that hopefully is legal in that state. Rumor has it that John Gonzalez is coming in second place in this year's Pick'ems.
He ain't coming in second. He's coming in last.
How do you know?
Right.
Hot take. I'm telling you right now.
All right, I'll come back to you. But, I mean, for you, Billy, I mean, Yankees are kind of in this, I guess, quagmire. Rob Maraska says they're going to be buyers. Chris is kind of saying, let's retool. What do you think they do here in these next 10 days to kind of decide what you think?
Yeah, well, listen, I'm going to say this, and let's keep that hot take rolling, all right? Because I actually just looked at the New York Yankees' upcoming schedule, and it is not very easy. I mean, they're
the Mets. We spoke about the Mets briefly. We got Kansas City. So what do you got after that?
But I mean, you got the Tampa Bay coming up, and
Tampa Bay struggled though mightily this month. They have not looked like the same team in April.
I know that, but we know how the Yankees play against Tampa Bay. It's just only a struggle. They got some other teams like Houston. I think is still on that schedule. Some other teams. I even saw the struggling Marlins on there, but still maybe they'll get better. So listen, I do think the Yankees' upcoming schedule is not a cakewalk. It's certainly going to be tough. Toronto, I'm sure, will be on there as well. And obviously, counterparts to me will say, well, that's good that they're on the schedule because the Yankees need to beat them. With that being said, they need Aaron Judge on the roster to beat them, as Rob Maraska said. And we still don't know the answer. I know Chris is talking about progress. But the problem is that there's no progress from a lot of the players on the team. Yes, we know that Aaron Judge carries the team and can carry the team, but ultimately the team requires good pitching, which has been okay. The team requires a better lineup, which has been awful.
It's horrible.
So I don't know if this team I can have confidence in, right? Let's get to that word, confidence. I don't think we could have confidence that they're going to win 90 games. Like Justin Gianelli said, I think that is what's going to take. I mean, those teams.
Even if it's 88, you go my route, too few wins. I still don't think this team is going to go 37-27 at the moment.
Like I said, with the schedule that I just looked at, with a lot of those opponents, that again, I'm not saying all of them are playing the best baseball, but they're not the Kansas City Royals. I mean, they're better teams.
No.
They're teams competing for the playoffs. They're teams that are playing, and have good rosters and good lineups. With the Yankees right now are not considered a good lineup. So certainly, I think it's a troublesome. I'm not going to go as far as saying that the Yankees are done. Yes, they have a chance, but I do think that if you had to go on the scale and say, are they closer to being done or are they closer to having a chance? I would say it's closer to being done. I think that they're in trouble. I think that those teams ahead of them are going to, stay where they are. Let's not forget about, Boston either. I mean, I know Boston's not playing amazing either, but they're ahead of the Yankees at the moment. So it's not like they're going anywhere. So I would say right now that I would lean more towards the Yankees being done because I think Aaron Judge will make the team better, but the team itself is not going to get better. And again, as Chris has said, and it's 100% right, I cannot argue with him, this is on Brian Cashman, not Aaron Boone.
See, I would just say this. I guess, and I'll come back to Billy in a second because I think originally I wanted to ask Billy the same question. But, I mean, the Yankees, because you have Judge, let's say he comes back after the deadline, he can carry this team. And it's a bizarre season where one player can change a lineup so drastically. Maybe that helps Stanton see more pitches. Maybe Rizzo finally gets it together. And this is the lineup we saw a little bit of drips and drabs last season and late in 21. And maybe they do sneak into the playoffs. Okay, fair point. But there's really nothing you've seen now for this team from quite a while. I mean, even if you would have won one against the Angels, maybe I'd feel a little bit better about this team. But get swept against an Angels team that really hasn't done much either the last month and a half. And the Rockies to lose 2 out of 3 to them. And these are teams that just, you should be beating them and taking care of business. The Cardinals, another example. I mean, the Cardinals, the Rockies, and obviously, again, with the Angels and the White Sox and all these teams. I mean, just, even tonight, the Royals, not even impressive. And a couple more comments here, just bringing Mattingly already. Yeah, we spoke about that. And the guys seem to be opposed to that. Not that opposed to it, but they don't think it's going to happen. Mark Canha to Seattle. I'll come back to the Mets in a second. But, Billy, I do find this Yankees team fascinating in the sense that maybe these next 10 days, let's say somehow Yankees win 6 of the next 9. You're a game back, 2 games back. All right, maybe you feel a little bit better. Judge is on the horizon. I guess maybe Rob Moroska isn't wrong here. But should the Yankees be buyers or be like a Chris Pizzea and maybe try to mildly sell off some free agents and hope next year is a better year with guys being healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brad. Mostly I agree with Chris. I think they should be selling. I just agree with Chris. You look at their roster, there's not much there to sell. Like you said, maybe Bader gets something, maybe Torres. I think Wandy Peralta might get you something. He's a lefty reliever. But you look at the roster, there's not much there. And I think another big problem for the Yankees is, their core guys, beyond Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, LeMahieu, they just don't look good. They're locked in with these guys. There's really not much, not much they can do, barring dumping the salary off on someone, and no one's going to take those salaries. So I think we're having the same conversations this time next year, maybe even the year after. I just don't see, based on what Hal Steinbrenner has shown he's willing to spend, and based on what I'm seeing from the Yankees, sort of like, I got to call it the secondary core because Aaron Judge is their primary core. I don't see like a great path for improvement for the Yankees, what you can see with other teams that are disappointing. You look at, for example, the White Sox. They have a lot of guys who are often hurt, but they have a core. You can look and say if they stay together for a season, they can be really good. The Cardinals, you kind of up as a blip, but
maybe
Yankees,
the Mariners, you look as a team that's kind of in the same spot as the Yankees. Maybe if you keep the team stand pat.
But you know what? The Yankees can make they can retool this team. Maybe not on the fly now, but I'm saying in the offseason, they could definitely make more moves because you got guys like McKinney, you got Bowers, you got Calhoun, all these guys, Cordero, all these guys wasting roster spots. So, I mean, they can move. I'm not saying they're going to get anything for those guys. They can just cut them or, just DFA them.
Someone's got to take the roster spots,
Right, yeah, but they could sign guys. They could trade from their minor league system and bring guys up.
Though? I mean, they're at, 270 now? Hal Steinbrenner has just not shown.
A lot's coming off, though. A lot's coming off this year. And then in another year, you got Rizzo done after one more year.
Who comes off this year, though? I'm not sure.
You got Severino is going to be gone. You got Bader's a free agent.
Rizzo's
and you got
season, right? Rizzo's one more year.
Rizzo's got one more year. And here's the other thing. I know that I brought it up on the podcast. Cole actually has an opt-out after next season. But here's the thing. If he decides to opt out, the Yankees could void that opt-out by adding another year to his contract. So I think that's going to be big news this offseason because, is he going to opt out? Or are the Yankees just going to give him the extra year? They're going to redo the whole, contract. Who knows? But that might be big news this offseason.
Oh, I got a funny comment for the Brute Force Brad Weiss. That is Mr. Omen Black, of course. Omen Black is one of the pillars of the foundation and our friends over at the IMF who are on YouTube at IMF Wrestling 666. And he directly goes right for the jugular, right for the Brute Force, and I approve it. Brute Force, I know we got on the wrong foot last week, but don't worry, Brute. I forgive you. But don't take it for granted. Everyone only gets one forced error. Just like him and his brother, Mr. Jordan Edson. Anything you want to say to Omen? Because Omen's obviously had an interesting week here, and he's going to have, I'm sure, an even further interesting week ahead. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm sure we'll be speaking about it real soon. Kind of a wink-wink there. Anything you want to say to Omen, Brad?
Yeah, no, listen, I have not been on any bad terms with Omen Black. I love Omen Black. He's one of my biggest supporters of any of the wrestlers that are here on the show. So I love Omen Black. Okay, nothing that I said last week was anything against Omen Black.
You sound like a politician, Brad. Are you running for office or something? You sound like you
no,
right there.
I was hoping we get a double bill going here.
I was hoping so, too.
Right? I mean, come on. We got a little double bill
listen,
going
Omen Black is the man. All right, I love
tag team
Omen Black.
match. 4-man tag team match.
Well, you know what? We can certainly make that happen here. I mean,
I think
if people are loving that on Sportzwire.
Come on.
Listen, I just want to make it clear that I love Omen Black. The comment last week about, being the ruler of Sportswire, yeah, he is the ruler of Sportswire.
This got very, very political tonight. Very political.
I just want to make sure everything is good. We're fine. I love him. I support him. He supports me. So I want to make sure we're good. That's all.
I gave you a chance, Brad. I gave you a chance here. John Gonzalez says, back off, Omen. Brute is my pet. Wow. Okay, Brute.
Oh, well, I'm not going to address this, all right? Because Omen Black,
Here we go.
Black can be respectful. Calling me a pet. I mean, I'm not a pet. And
if you were a pet, what pet would you want to be if you had the opportunity to be a pet? Would there be a pet in mind? I know you're a dog lover. I know your family are big dog lovers, big golden retriever lovers. But what pet would you like to be?
Well, I gotta say dog. I mean, just because of the reason you just said. I'm a big believer in the dogs. And listen, I'm a nice person. Also in the basketball world, you call a basketball player that's pretty good a dog. So, at the same time, there you go. So yeah, I'd like to be called a dog, but at the same time, John, I'm not a pet. All right. Listen, if anything, right, you want to call me a pet because you won the picks last year. All right. I'm not a pet. All right,
I used to always hate teachers' pets. I used to always hate those.
Oh, me too.
Brad, I was I wouldn't quite say that one of the troublemakers, but I was certainly not one of the favorites usually in the classes. That's why I'm here. But for whatever reason, it reminds me, and Joe Dell will appreciate this, maybe Rob and Chris, because they're rock fans. Rush has a song on the Test for Echo album called Dog Years. And I just, for whatever reason, when I hear pets, I think of Geddy Lee's vocals there with Dog Years. But let me get to some baseball comments here because guys here have some comments. Joe Dell here, for whatever reason, brings up the Oakland A's. Technically, the A's could still make the playoffs, but that is somewhere between walking on water and raising the dead.
Yeah,
I mean, those chances are about the same. So flip a coin, right? You might get the same chance. Yankees will try to unload Yankees will then try to unload Rizzo, LeMahieu, Bader, Torres, and Severino.
Well, LeMahieu has a full no trade clause, so he's
I think
going
Bader,
nowhere.
Severino, maybe
And
Rizzo.
nobody would want him.
Would anybody
Maybe
want Bader?
maybe Rizzo because he's only got one more year left, and Bader, he's a free agent, so he's a rental. So you could definitely get rid of him. Somebody will want him.
And I got a couple of more comments from Mr. Black himself. He says, "You said it wasn't my show, but I'm calm." And Jay, which he means Mr. Gonzalez, you better watch your back and watch your mouth before I make you disappear, like CB Cooper.
Oof.
If anyone here is a pet, it's you, Mr. Gonzalez, with your puppy dog self. Just count me as Mike Vick. Ooh, boy, we're going really there.
Oh,
Mike
man.
Vick is, boy.
Oh,
man.
Well, I'm going to plead the fifth. I'm going to plead the fifth on the Michael Vick comments. I'm going to certainly walk away from that.
And
But,
it's DB Cooper, not CB Cooper.
Oh, well, I'm glad somebody wanted to clarify that. Certainly, I'm sure Mr. Black will appreciate that. But let's go over to the New York Mets, because I got the Yankees side of things. I got where they're going. I've got an idea. Maybe these next 10 days will tell me something. But, Justin, I guess the Mets were on the verge of getting a win tonight. Maybe when the suspended game resumes, maybe they find a way to win this series. They've had a better month in the month of July, but there's still several teams ahead of this team. And I mean, what do you think the Mets do here between now and the 31st? Is it sort of the same boat as the Yankees? Maybe retool, sell some veterans, or we just stand pat or what?
They're in a very confusing spot. I know they're 6.5 games out. But, I mean, man, if you look at the teams in front of them, they're not all that good. I came on here last week talking about how Miami was going to come back to the pack. Well, guess what? They've lost 7 in a row. They've come back to the pack.
Cincinnati struggle now a bit, yep.
The Cincinnati Reds, they've won 3 in a row now, but they've lost 6 of their last 10. San Diego continues to just – they're kind of like the Mets. They can't get out of their own way either. The Cubs are going to get a lot worse once they start selling off pieces. We know about the pieces that they've talked about, Marcus Stroman, Cody Bellinger, guys like that who are going to potentially be on the move. I definitely would not do anything drastic in terms of adding. If I could do addition by subtraction, you could do that on a guy like Mark Canha or –
Well, Sherman made the point in the post, I think it was 2 days ago, that Tommy Pham, move him now. That was what Joel Sherman said.
The only issue that you have with that now is the bulky groin. He wasn't in the lineup tonight. I don't think you'll see him this weekend. I think that's going to be a little bit of an issue. I don't know that I would see. I don't think the Mets need to go full sale. I don't know if they're going to trade. I don't know if they're going to trade Tommy Pham. I don't know if they'll trade David Robertson. They'll probably trade a Mark Canha, a guy who got a lot less at bats ever since Pham started getting hot. I think they're more likely to stand pat than anything and just kind of just roll with what
they
they
wouldn't
got.
move a Tommy Pham as an example. Mark Canha, guys who have a little bit of value to a team. Maybe you get something back. You're not moving Marte now because he's injured. He's worth nothing.
Well, not only that, you just don't want to trade guys at their lowest value, right? And that's what Starling Marte is. He's had such a bad season, and now he's hurt, and he's got 2 years at a good amount of money left. I don't know that teams are going to take on.
And he might come back better next year with, he had like triple groin surgery this offseason or something, he could come back better next year. It's not out of the realm of possibility that
I think so. He gave some quotes to Laura Albanese of Newsday saying he's just starting to feel a little bit better. He said it's not so much the running that's causing him the issue. It's the torque in the swing. And you could tell he's got no power this year. He's got absolutely no power this year. I don't rule it out that he's got at least another good year left. I don't mind running it back next year with Marte in right field. But
I think you're going to have no choice because I don't think anybody's going to take him right now.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think so. And I hear it all the time. People say trade McNeil. again, you don't trade people at their lowest value. Right now, what value is Jeff McNeil? He's in one of the worst slumps of his career. He just got a 4-year extension. I mean, there's no value to it. And I really think, even though he did have some struggles in 21, this is more of the anomaly and not who he is. I think he's going to get back to that player. I still think you might see that player again at some
But
point.
I'd also argue it's a product of the lineup. The lineup this year versus last year. Again, we were speaking on this show at this time last year. It was a very productive lineup for the
Well, they
most
scored the
part.
5th most runs in baseball last year.
Right. This
year,
year
they're a
they've
little
been
bit
at the
more
bottom
middle.
of the pack. I mean, even Alonso's hitting basically 200, just above the Mendoza line.
Yeah.
He went from,
Listen, they went from a top 5 offense last year to a team that's about middle of the pack this year. They're like 17th in runs. They're like almost smack dab in the middle of the league. Right? They're not a bad lineup. They're just so freaking inconsistent. It drives you nuts because you know it's there, right?
yeah.
We've seen
Yeah.
Brandon Nimmo go on this power surge, and that's great. But Pete Alonso has completely disappeared, and I don't think it's get talked about enough. And I know that we tend to give homegrown guys the benefit of the doubt, but this is where I really want to defend Francisco Lindor, because I feel like any single bad moment, we tend to rip Francisco Lindor a new one. Yet Pete Alonso's been in this 2-month-long slump, and nobody says a peep about him. It's time for Pete Alonso to take the brunt of the blame for this offense. Francisco Lindor, the average may not look all that great. I think Francisco Lindor's having a pretty solid year, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's going to wind up probably being the Mets' best overall.
He is at the very bottom of people you blame for what's gone on this year. Pete Alonso has been a complete zero.
Pete Alonso had like 3 great weeks, and the rest of the season he's been about a 160, 170 hitter.
I always found it mystifying that he had all these home runs early, but yet he was only batting 230, 240, and I was like, okay, I guess I can live with the power. Now the power is just gone. He's not hitting home runs.
Power is definitely. He's going to struggle to even hit.
200.
He's going to struggle to hit above 200, and maybe if he's lucky, 36 home runs at this point. He got 26. If he gets 10, maybe 12 the rest of the way.
You know what? I still say he could hit another 50. He could still get to 40.
He could.
He could absolutely still get to 40.
Because you
know he's capable of just going on an absolute heater.
Yeah, when he goes on the heaters, they last a while and they're fruitful, but. Yeah, it's been a long couple months, and I agree with Justin. I mean, and you look at Lindor's numbers in the clutch situations. He has been incredible in those situations. Whenever, he's not setting the table, but when it's a big moment, he's stepping up, and no one else in this team can say that. Maybe Francisco Alvarez, but.
Well, really, Alvarez has been by far the Mets' best hitter this year.
Right, the best catcher in a rookie season ever.
He's turned into one of the best, if not the best, offensive catcher in baseball. But the thing is with Pete Alonso is, here's 2 things. In a day and age where guys get rested like crazy, I'll give him credit. He and Lindor are out there every single day. I actually was kind of hoping Buck would give him an off day yesterday. Now, granted, I don't know if it was possible because of the outfield situation and Pham ended up leaving early. You had Marte go on the IL, and they didn't have they didn't call Vientos until after the game. So it really, and Canna would have had to play first base. So
yeah, you would have
been a little bit dicey.
All
right, let me get to some other comments here, because obviously
I would have liked to have got Alonso a day off yesterday.
And also here, John Gonzalez wanted to bring up they're getting calls on Quintana. Quintana came back yesterday, pitched okay. He definitely gave him 5 innings, 2 runs, and
that's another thing that I would not see the Mets as full sell is if they tried trading a Quintana or a Carrasco if there's any type of value.
Carrasco. Yeah, the Mets can certainly move Carrasco. I don't think too many Met fans would be complaining about that.
I don't see how Quintana gets traded. He's missed the entire damn season.
You're going to get at least one. What do you get? One more start between now and the deadline with him?
Yeah.
One more? Yeah, you're not going to move him. Let me get to some more comments here. Omen Black would like to say, hey, did I ask you? Didn't think so. I'm sorry. I got fat thumbs and put CB. Just remember, Bubble, you're on my show, son. Joe Dell wants to bring up, I saw Rush on the Test for Echo tour, that was 1996-97, unlike Rob Morosco, who saw them on 2112. Did you really see them on 2112, Rob Morosco? Are you that old to see them on 2112? I mean, that's...
Yeah, I'm that old.
Did you saw them on 20? Did you see them? Well, I'm asking, did you see them on 2112 or no?
Yeah, I'm that old, definitely.
But did you see? No, I'm not asking that. I'm asking, did you see them on the 2112 tour? Was my question.
Yes.
You
That's
did. Well,
what I
okay, so I stand corrected then.
Yeah.
You did see Rush on the 2112 tour. And Test for Echo, little note there. Rush, actually, if I'm not mistaken, 'cause I'm a Rush fan, they had their highest ever U.S. capacity show, believe it or not, on the Test for Echo tour. A lot of people would never have guessed that, but I believe they played, it was in Washington State. They played in front of like 20-something thousand as a standalone. That was their biggest show they ever played as a headlining act in the U.S. So now you learned something. Rob just made the list right next to Mrs. Gonzalez. Want to say hello here to the Painmaker himself, Mr. Joshua Allen. Mr. Allen, of course, is the special confidant to the Tennessee Backyard Wrestling World Champion. That is Mr. Ledger Shade himself, the reigning undisputed champion there. Almost 500 days that Mr. Ledger Shade has been the undisputed TBW champion. Please give our friends at Tennessee Backyard Wrestling a follow out there on Instagram, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, also YouTube as well. And Omen Black will say, on another note, I agree with Justin. Fair enough there. Appreciate that. And also, Omen Black will say, I'll tell you this, Tom. You get me a ring with Brute, and we take on Rob and Jay. We'll walk away with our dignity, with our bones still intact, unlike those chumps. Team Omen, Brute will win. Yeah, you probably would. And Brad's probably got big enough of a size of a backyard that he could probably put a ring in that house. I'm sure that the Gentle Force and the Super Force wouldn't necessarily be fans of that, but I'm certainly sure that Brad in Plainview could certainly find a place. Or if not Brad's house, James D. Simone's house. Because James D. Simone, he's a wrestling fan. He's got the size, I'm sure, in the back of his yard that Mr. D. Simone could find a way to put that ring up there and go for a match. But, Rob Orozco, obviously Mets kind of in, I guess, Justin makes a point, maybe a little bit more of an optimistic note, you might want to say. 6.5 back. I don't really know if this team's really in it or not, but they are sort of in it. I mean, what do you think this Mets team does? Similar to the Yankees, or it's a different position?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be big sellers. I mean, they might make a deal if, the deal is right. A lot of teams are asking about Quintana, but I agree with Billy. He hasn't pitched enough for the Mets to trade him, so I don't think they're going to trade him. Let's face it, the whole team has slumped at the same time this year, and that's what the problem is. It's a totally different team than last year. The way they're playing, it's the same core, but they're just not playing how they played last year.
31-44 their last 75 games. I mean, you take a step back.
It's everybody's just slumping at the same time. And I agree with Justin. I'm not blaming Lindor because Lindor's getting some key hits. He's hitting. The team average, it's just
anemic. It's like really bad. We're talking like 1960s bad almost with this team batting average this year. We're going into 237, I think, going into today's play, right? 238 or something like that. Just a really anemic number.
Yeah. So are the Mets going to make any deals? Who knows right now? I mean, Pham, he's hurt. They're not going to get anything for Marte, and he's on the IL for a migraine. How long do migraines last that you got to get put on the IL? I mean,
unless it's concussion related, I mean, then it's a different ball game. I mean,
yeah, but did he hit his head?
I don't know, but you know what? I'm not going to make any judgments when it comes to Marte and the migraines. I know that it's listen, migraines are no freaking joke, man. They're not. I don't know if it was related to a play in a game or, it's just something that's, migraines can come on very suddenly. And, he's obviously very much struggled with it. And they retroactive
Tuesday, right?
Placed up to the 17th, I believe. Yeah. So realistically, he is eligible to come back on the 27th.
Something's got to be wrong with him because he's just not the same player. He hasn't been the same player, like I said last week, since he came back last year. Towards the end, he just hasn't been the same player. So who knows what's wrong with him? And the pitching is just old.
Yes, middle of the pack. I think Justin made the point, or it was Brad that made the point. They're 17th in runs, and in pitching, they're kind of in the same. There's nothing spectacular about this team. Last year, it was like they found ways.
It's a little too up and down. The funny thing is, we cited the Mets team batting average. This year they're hitting more home runs than they did last year.
Well, you got what? You got 19 out of Alvarez. You got 26 out of Alonso. You got what?
The Mets are 10th. The Mets are 10th in baseball in home runs, in last year.
Nimmo's got 14. So you got guys with power for what that's worth. It's just they don't feel like. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would not, and I agree with Justin. I wouldn't trade McNeil. You know what? He's just having an off year. This isn't the way he plays. I like him on the team. He's just having an off year. So, it happens. I don't want to see them trade McNeil.
Well, I don't think they're trading anybody, and I think Justin made the point, guys with low value. Now, again, Pham is hurt. Okay, maybe he's out. Carrasco, maybe you move him. Robertson, if you want to go down that road. Certainly, as a stretch, maybe a Verlander. I don't know. But they're not
going to trade Scherzer or Verlander.
Yeah, I agree on that.
At some point, you got guys who are under contract for next year. Somebody's got to pitch of the rotation next year,
right? And
they don't have that type of talent ready in AAA to just step in and take that spot.
And they need a DH. I mean, Vogelbach, enough already. He hits a home run tonight, and he's jumping around like crazy. He's been terrible. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt in the beginning of the year, but I mean, he's just awful. And
Rob, don't worry. Doc, you saw the picture. Doc Gooden was hanging out with the 2024 Met DH, so it's all right.
Yes, he was. Yes, you are absolutely right.
And the Mets, 1982, had a better batting average. They were 27 games in last. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, this team is certainly in that direction. They're only a little bit better, I would imagine. But, for you, Chris, real quick, before I go over to Brad and Billy and move on here with some other thoughts real quick before we get off the air. I mean, this Mets team, I guess, is in a similar position to the Yankees. I think the Yankees, maybe the story is you get Judge back. You can get on a run because he did it already when he was in the lineup. But with this Mets team, I think they're a little too far back. They haven't been 500 for me in several weeks now. I think their path is still a little bit more narrower than the Yankees, so maybe I'm convinced tonight the Yankees could theoretically go on that run, although I'm still skeptical. But with the Mets, I just don't see it. What do you say?
You know what? I think you got to give them this week, right?
Okay.
You got to give them the 3 games in Boston, 2 games against the Yankees. Then you got the Nationals. By that time, you know what? If you could cut the wild card
4.5, 5 games.
Yeah, if you could cut it to 3 or 4, then you know what? Then you got to put the pedal to the metal and go for it, right? Because you got the highest payroll in baseball, and if you're only 3 games out, you got to go for it. You can't just say, "All right, we're going to sell off," these players. You just can't do that. You got to go for it because, like you said, you got your pitchers. You're not selling Scherzer. You're not selling Verlander, and they're coming back next year, so go for it. I would that's what I would do. I wouldn't just give away every top prospect and go for it for a rental or something. No, but you got to make some moves to try to improve the team to go for it. That's in my mind.
I kind of think based on the team, I guess maybe you make a case. Well, the Marlins, to Justin pointed out, have struggled. Okay, Cincinnati's bounced back a little bit, but you're still really not impressed with them. The Padres are basically in an identical position as the Mets. The Cubs, I don't think anybody really thinks they're going to be hanging around here in a week or so. The Giants have played above water.
Well, also, too, the Cubs are going to be known as one of the big sellers because they have some of the more attractive
that's
pieces,
one team,
like a Marcus Stroman and a Cody Bellinger.
You got
that they're going to fall off.
You have one team you're going to leave for. St. Louis seems like they're going to be, they've been red hot.
They said they're
it really depends on who gets hot in this next week, right? Like if the Mets could get hot and cut that lead, or even the Cubs, They're right there. San Diego. They're in that same kind of
Yeah, I don't know.
5,
The
6
Cubs
games
to
out.
me, though, you got Bellinger's probably going to be the best he's going to be for this season. He's come back. He's red hot right now. I'd say move him. Stroman, I think you got a lot of value out of him right now. You get some prospects, and you're building next year in that division. You could be a force to be reckoned
But then
with.
what do think about it? What do the Padres do? Because the Padres are basically like the Mets. High payroll,
See,
a lot
I
of
think the
stars, good
Padres-
team.
But
What
the
do you
Padres,
do?
I think, have played a little bit better than the Mets maybe lately, and they've got more talent. Maybe you make the point that the Padres situation, you almost maybe you do go. They were talking about this on the radio yesterday morning on MLB Network on their radio station on Sirius XM, and Kevin Franson and Eduardo Perez made the point. Well, the Padres, you got the pitching, you got the hitting, you're playing a little bit better. Maybe you just
I'll tell you
stand
one
back and
thing.
go for it.
I'll tell you one thing. San Diego's not adding. They're not.
No, but even if but they don't have to add. If they just
don't
stand
exactly.
pat.
They don't have to add. They could stand pat. Could I
Yeah.
still, despite being somewhat in it, could I see a Blake Snell getting moved regardless of their position? I could see that, and then that puts one of the top pitchers on the market, along with Marcus Stroman.
Yeah, I mean, somebody has to move. Although I kind of feel like with the Padres, you've got
The move
Darvish,
I see,
Musgrove,
the
Snell.
move
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
see would be like a Marcus Stroman to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to be desperate for starting pitching. We know with Kershaw out, Urias has struggled. Gonsolin was okay tonight. He's not been great. He had a great year last year. The Dodgers starting pitching has been just a mystery this year. It's just been awful.
And they're still in first place, which is shocking.
They're still in first place. And guess what? They're winning the West again. You know what? Arizona, the reality set in for Arizona, and the Dodgers went right by them.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Giants, who I think nobody's been impressed with, but they've actually been there pretty much most of the season. Do you feel
The
like
Giants
the Giants
remind me, even though they're not going to win 107 games like they did 2 years ago, it's like, how the hell are they doing it? I don't understand.
We said
Their
it
roster's
last
not
year.
great.
You know who
We
they
were
are? They're Tampa. They're Tampa of the National League. That's like
With a
the
higher
Rays are
payroll.
always up there, and you're like, how are they? Like, who are these people? But they're
Yeah, but with a
They're
higher
up there.
payroll and a more willingness to spend.
right. But they're still the same. Like you're saying, like who is this team? And they're always up there, no matter
Yeah.
what.
Very
Yeah,
much
it's certainly selective when they make moves. A couple comments here before I go to Brad and Billy. Bring up Ronnie Mauricio. Mets need Ed Kranepool or something
They're
like
not going to
him.
bring up Mauricio.
Padres
They won't.
won't sell. Yeah, I think Stan Pat we kind of agree on. Teams like Baltimore, Minnesota, Texas will be active. Yeah, I think Baltimore almost has to be active now. Baltimore, they're starting to fill the ballpark up. There's excitement there. I think you almost have to go for it. Minnesota, again, if Cleveland does sell Bieber, that's the other big name out there. I think Minnesota almost by default.
Bieber
has
to
do
me
something.
is off the table.
Yeah, I agree on
Yeah,
that.
he's done.
With
the
the
injuries.
elbow issue, there's too many
Yeah.
red flags now. I don't see that happening.
Well, you almost have to say Minnesota then still should finally again cross over the hurdle. And then Texas, I
Yeah.
definitely think Texas will be active.
Texas is definitely going to need pitching, and now they need to worry about what is going to come out of tonight. They lose 11-5 to the Dodgers, but the biggest story coming out of this one is that Corey Seager left the game with what appeared to be an arm injury. I saw the replay. He dove into second base. Couldn't really tell, but if he misses any significant portion of time, it's a huge hit to their lineup. He's already missed time this year. He missed time last year. Do they add another bat? I don't know, but you're right. But John's right. They're going to be active. Baltimore, see, that's a spot where I'd love Blake Snell to go because I think because even if the
I was
Padres
even
aren't-
hearing on the radio.
even if the Padres
yesterday,
aren't sellers, they might still trade Blake Snell.
I was even hearing on the radio yesterday that Baltimore could be a landing spot for Shohei Ohtani if the Angels decide to sell him, which I thought was very
I
fascinating.
don't think they will. I'm not of the camp that they're going to trade Ohtani.
Yeah, I think right now it's almost like I think the point
and
was
they're
made. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of, he's at the plate right now.
Oh well,
By the way, he was brutal on the mound tonight. Not good.
yeah, I heard, and they moved his start because he was supposed to start Wednesday, and they moved him Friday.
Yeah,
So
he's been dealing with blister issues. Gave up 5 runs tonight to the Pirates, but they're winning. They're winning 8-5. right
Yes,
now.
they're in the bottom of the 7th.
Like
right?
the opposite of how it usually goes for him.
So
Usually
Billy,
he's like does something unheard of and they lose, you know.
I go right to you then, Billy, and then I'll round it out with Brad. I mean,
Yep.
this Mets, we've heard a lot of talk about the Mets here over the past 20 or so minutes from the different guys. And where do you fall on this team? I mean, I kind of think at this point there really isn't much for this team to go. Maybe if the Cubs sell, I guess maybe San Diego moves. Maybe that puts the Mets in a better position. Maybe Justin has another point on the Marlins, have struggled mightily the last week and a half, have come back to earth. I mean, is there really an opening for this Mets team, and what do you think they do between now and the deadline?
There's an opening, but they're not good enough to take it.
Right.
That's the fundamental problem. Especially, the lineup is average, but the pitching is not good enough. The only starter you really trust, is Kodai Senga, and he can only pitch once a week because he's still adjusting from coming over from Japan. The bullpen, you have two relievers you trust through David Robinson and Brooks Raley. There's no one else in that bullpen you trust. They're not built for a stretch run trying to make up ground in a pennant race, and they're not built for the playoffs. You can't get deep into the playoffs with two usable relievers. It's just not possible. So is the possibility there? Yeah, the NL wildcard is littered with teams that aren't particularly good, but the Mets are not particularly good. So I don't think you need to completely blow it up. I think you have some guys having down years, but I think anybody who's a free agent after this year, you get the best deal you can for. And I know I agree with Justin, it's not going to happen at this point, but I would call it Ronnie Mauricio if it was up to me, and I'd play him every day, and I would let him get just to the major leagues, see what he does. Then you see in the offseason, can I trust him to be a starter next year, or do I need to find either a second baseman to move McNeil to the outfield or an outfielder to keep McNeil at second? I would also, I think, Mark Vientos needs DH every day, and you either say,
Oh, what a joke.
You're the guy next year, or we're going to find someone else. But this season, I think too much has gone wrong, and this team is not good enough to make up that ground. I think you chalk this up to a lost season. You establish what you can and figure out what you have going into next year, so you can hit free agency with a plan instead of just scrambling to find. Scrambling to get Justin Verlander when you don't re-sign Jacob deGrom, scrambling to find a DH and ultimately failing to and bring back Daniel Vogelback.
Daniel Vogelback. Brad is unloaded on him week after week, and it's an albatross.
He's awful. I don't know.
You know what? It's good for him for hitting the home run tonight. But when I saw the lineup card and Mark Vientos was not the DH, I'm like, you got to be freaking kidding me.
I agree with Justin. I'm not crazy high on Vientos.
I'm not. I don't know that he's that good. But at this point in the season, you can't tell me it's not worth it to see him for the rest of the year. You can't tell me it's not worth it to see him at DH for the rest of the year.
It has to be that it's somebody from upstairs that clearly wants to see this guy play because they don't want to be embarrassed. It just has to be that.
Or Daniel Vogelbach's got some kind of dirt on somebody, whether it's Showalter.
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me.
Every night.
I'll tell you what.
When it comes to Ronnie Mauricio, and I know John, I think, had the comment a little while ago about bringing up Ronnie Mauricio. Obviously, if you have Vientos up here, he's going to be part of the DH answer, right? He's definitely, Vientos is definitely going to be in the lineup against left-handed pitching. So that means Ronnie Mauricio is going to have to play the field. And by all accounts, he's not been great in Syracuse defensively. He's struggled to play left field. He's struggled to play second base. Obviously, we know shortstop is completely blocked with Francisco Lindor. I don't know that Ronnie Mauricio is going to see the big leagues in 2023. I just don't think so.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to certainly find out here. And also, before I get to Brad, interesting note, Tuesday we saw 12 teams score in double digits for the first time since 1894. Who would not have guessed that? You would have thought maybe the juice ball era, maybe the 2000s.
And the Mets had to hang on for their lives in that.
And they had a 7-run lead, almost blew it. That's kind of been
at poor Chris that night had to watch the Yankees score 1 run on 2 hits.
That's sometimes how it goes here. It's the luck of the baseball season for both New York teams. The Brew Force, Brad Weiss, I have heard a number of people here go on about this Mets team, where they fall. I kind of have an idea of where you're going to go with this because you did bring up the word confidence, and I don't think most people have any confidence or at all some confidence in this Mets team between now and the deadline. I guess theoretically, if you believe that the Cubs will sell, the Cardinals will sell, the Marlins will drop off, you don't buy Cincinnati, there is a path a la 2016 for the Mets, who were pretty much in this position at that time and kind of feasted on teams that had inferior records and were able to kind of skate into the playoffs after pretty much a disappointing season, kind of similar to this one. But I don't know if I see the similarities in that year's team to this one. But where do you fall on this Mets team between now and the deadline? I'm sure we'll speak a little bit more on next week's show. But what do you say the Mets wind up doing here between now and the deadline?
So first of all, you want me to address confidence. So you know what? I will do that and tell you between 0 and 100 where my confidence is on the New York Mets, and it is -50. Okay?
Wow, negative. I was thinking maybe 10, 15. Okay. You got negative.
Listen, if you have not seen my facial expressions throughout everybody talking about the Mets, it just describes my feeling about them. I'm basically falling asleep and just not enjoying it at all because the Mets, you know, I hate to say what some people tell me sometimes to listen to, but I have to listen to it because Mets stands for must end the season. And at this point,
yeah, you know what's funny? I think I was on a call with one of the wrestlers this week, and he was a Braves fan. He goes off the air. You know what the Mets stand for? I'm like, what? Must end the season. That's what he said.
That's how I feel about this team. I can't. They're not exciting. They're not fun. I don't know why Anthony Finkel went to the game this week.
I think he went because he doesn't like the Mets. He wants to poke fun. He's one of those casual guys that go out.
Yeah, well, listen, Jason Getz was trying to get me to go to a game on Tuesday against the White Sox because of a basketball jersey they were giving away. I mean, I'm not going for that, okay? Anthony Finkel, you're a New York Liberty fan. Pay your money to watch a better product.
He can afford it too, by the way. He can definitely afford it.
Pay your money to watch a better product because this product is just not worth it, okay? And Billy McInerney, who I was just going to give a raving compliment to,
he'll be back.
He came off, okay? Just preach the gospel, okay? Because he said everything that I would have said, okay? And I'll make it a little worse because that's who I am, okay? Because Billy McInerney, I was just saying it, Billy, you gospel. Everything you said was exactly right, okay? First of all, the season is over, okay? They're not doing anything. They're not making the playoffs. They're not getting back to 500. They're not consistent. Justin Gianelli used the word inconsistent. That describes the team. And now, again, I keep saying it for weeks, you got to judge the book off the front cover right now because the front cover is inconsistent, and that's exactly what they are. I'm not going to judge it off anything else, okay? The New York Mets, okay, their lineup sucks, okay? If I see Daniel Vogelbach bat fifth one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. And I mean, it is – can somebody tell me what Daniel Vogelbach does to help a baseball team win? And you know what? If he was on the Syracuse Mets, I would ask the same question. What does he do to help the baseball team win?
The only defense, and again, I'm going
back. There's no defense. What is it?
The only defense is he's like 100 points over his on-base percentage in batting.
Oh, we don't even want him on base. He can't run.
I know, but I'm saying.
And Brad, I can spare you this.
His average is so bad. His on-base percentage is still bad. It's not like he's getting on base like a 380 clip.
And here's something, and Brad, here's something that could spare you. Obviously, he's gonna be in the lineup tomorrow when the game resumes because it's just the resumption. But guess what? James Paxton is pitching for the Red Sox tomorrow night. So he won't be in the lineup.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the exciting news. Yeah. All right. Listen, nothing excites me about the Mets. Okay, going to the game is not exciting. Watching them is not exciting. Okay, the bullpen. You know what? The bullpen might be the most fun part about the Mets because I could laugh about everybody's name who comes in. You know, Hart Wiggle and Gott.
I mean, Drew Smith. I mean, my goodness, another guy.
Drew Smith. I mean, get him the hell off the team.
I think the last 18.
Here's the thing, and this is why I agree with the Mauricio point from Billy McInerney. We are at a point where who gives a damn about this season? Nothing's happening. Okay, Drew Smith, stop making him look embarrassing. Let him go to AAA, figure it out, because at this point, can he please bring something to the 2024 team? Okay, Mauricio, just let him play. Who cares if he's making mistakes?
Drew Smith's ERA is a touchdown. His last.
Brett Beatty's been making errors too at times, so they're making mistakes. Let them make their mistakes now. Well, the team sucks. I mean, let them play. Let them get a chance. I mean, Pete Alonso, like Justin said, I mean, this guy's been the Atlanta Braves hit him with the pitch. Maybe it was intentional because they basically ended his season because he hasn't been anything since that hit by pitch. I mean, he's, you go down the lineup, I can't watch Vogelback. I mean, the fact that he's on the team gives me no confidence in anything that the Mets do because, first of all, him being on the team, you want to talk about Brian Cashman, which Chris Pizzea should be talking about. I will talk about the guy who I don't believe in at all, and that is Billy Epler. Not at all. I don't trust him. I don't think that he is going to make the right moves. He'll screw it up again. He has a lot of proving and a lot of trust that he has to build with us because ultimately he has no trust in my book at all right now. His trades have been horrible. His signings haven't been that good. I mean, what has this guy done? Even the draft, for God's sakes, everybody's ranting and raving about the shortstop they got because he was drafted lower. Who the hell needs a shortstop? Whether in the Mets, they don't need one. So in the end, I don't believe in anything this guy does. And Steve Cohen,
I can't believe I'm going to do this. I can't.
Steve Cohen, hold on. Let me finish. Steve Cohen, let me say this because he said it in the press conference. When they pitch, they don't hit. When they hit, they don't pitch. And then what the heck keeps happening? The same thing. So you want to go crazy about, Scherzer pitched well this week. Well, next week he gets shelled. Vogelback hit a home run this week. Well, he strikes out 6 times the next week. I mean, there's no consistency. There's no excitement with this team. I mean, the most excitement you get is from Mr. Met. I mean, there's literally nothing that's exciting about this team whatsoever. The fact that we are talking about some of the other things like, what happens.
Alvarez is the one excitement part of this team. If you want to say so, he's got 19.
Hold on, because I think I agree with you with that. But here's the thing. Am I going to put on the Mets game to watch Francisco Alvarez only? Okay? Me? No. I want to see a team, and I was supposed to get a team that was supposed to win games. We're supposed to have a high payroll. We're supposed to do this, that, this. Okay? And what I'm watching is a team that might as well be the equivalent of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, they're just an inconsistent.
Well, they're 31-44 their last 75 games. That's even with the 9-5 month in July. So this team
everybody wants to go bravo. They want to beat the White Sox in a series. It's the first time they beat a team under 500 all damn season in a series. Congratulations, and we should be all excited about that, and we should think that's the reason why we can push forward. Meanwhile, we scrapped out a win against them 11-10, right? We lost the other night. I mean, it's not like they're impressing me in any sort of facet. And I said it already a few weeks ago about how the National Series, everybody's like, the Nationals. When we get to the Nationals, the Nationals have given us problems all year, and they will continue to do so. Like I said, the New York Mets, not exciting, not to be trusted, and not to be watched. I'll make that clear. Just wait for 2024. They are not exciting to watch. Do not waste your money going to the game because ultimately they don't need it, okay? And by the way, Carlos Carrasco, you want to talk about his worth? Right. I can get this water bottle, and still it won't be enough for Carlos Carrasco because he's worth nothing.
He's miserable. I know you're going to look at the baseball card and say, maybe he wasn't that bad as a Met at times, but this guy is like, oh, my goodness.
No, I mean, batting practice. I said it earlier this season. Batting practice.
The game of giving up runs in the first inning, that's for sure.
It's been a mess since then.
Listen, this team, I agree with you, Brad. To me, 31-44 is the last 75 games. You got to get to 500 by the deadline. I don't think they're going to get there.
Not even close.
The only defense is, again, going back to my days in law classes. Well, in 2001, they went on a big run and almost made it in 16, but these teams were different than this one we see here on the field, and I think this Mets team is going nowhere. John Gonzalez is right. I usually don't agree with Brute, but he's right about the Mets. Put a fork in them. Yeah, you don't really feel that this team. I know they were saying the right things yesterday after the game. Quintana and Todd Zeal was saying in postgame, yeah, well, they're playing better and they're doing the right things. But to me, it's all Mets are done. It'll be Dolan time. I think Brad maybe on closing thoughts will have a point on Evan Fournier. Maybe. That's really the only thing you're going to get Dolan time wise. Epler is a joke. The problem is I don't think Billy Epler's going anywhere. No. What's he going into year 3? No, he's not.
I don't disagree with that, but he's not to be trusted.
All right. I hate to defend him, but I'm going to. All right. First of all, you mentioned the draft pick of Colin Houck, the shortstop from Georgia.
Yes.
Listen, just because they have just because they have Francisco Lindor doesn't mean you don't draft the guy who plays shortstop. And listen, if you're the best athlete, you're probably a shortstop in high school. You're probably a shortstop, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean his future ends up being a shortstop. Obviously, if he's already bolting. I don't know that it's saying much, but he's already bolting up the Mets, prospect list, because of how good he is.
That's part of my point, though.
They'll find a home.
And also, Justin, can you please tell me some pictures from the Mets organization that we should be looking forward to seeing from the minor leagues? Because I don't see any. That's why I'm wondering why we went.
Mike Vassell, Blade Tidwell, but the problem is they're much lower in the system right now.
I mean, Ernest Dove could tell us.
Blade Tidwell is
that
in
ain't gonna do it.
IA Brooklyn. I think Mike Vassell was just promoted to AA.
Yeah, we had Mike Vassell. Ernest interviewed him, but I don't think what Brad's trying to say is give me a guy that's going to come in here and make me feel good about this team. Peterson never really quite did that for you. Maybe at times in the COVID year.
A lot of people had a lot of high hopes for him. He was obviously a first-round pick from Oregon. Yep. David Peterson was.
A lot of hype, 2017 pick. Yeah,
hasn't quite panned out.
No.
It's a tough situation. Granted, Billy Epler was the GM of a 101 win team for what it's worth.
Well, I think that's the thing. People look at it and say, "Well, this team won 101 games last year."
And listen, people wanted to credit him last year for the signing of Starling Marte, and the same people that are ripping him this year.
Well, I mean,
but hold on. But this is the thing. All right, this is the thing that I want to retort on that. We all want to talk about 101 wins, right? Which again, we should be happy about because we are the New York Mets. We don't do that ever. Okay, but at the same time, okay. Can we talk about the playoffs? Because ultimately, that's what we should be trying to strive for. I mean, is the playoffs. Okay, and I know we made the playoffs, but again, the moves that Billy Epler made at the deadline last year were not to help a team win in the playoffs. That is the point.
Right.
Vogelback was not helping you win the. Darren Ruff was not making you go over the top.
Then the reliever they got either, who did absolutely
nothing. Who the hell? I forgot his name. That's how irrelevant he was. I mean, please.
Right out of my mouth.
That's the point.
From the Cubs.
Right. The guy came in.
Michael Gibbons,
Buck Showalter's friend. Please. Come on.
That team would have been better if he did nothing at the deadline. I am fully convinced of that.
What it reminds me of? It reminds me of in 2019 when the Islanders were in first place and everybody was pushing Lou Lamoriello to make a move, get a big sniper, and he basically did nothing at the deadline. And the Islanders kind of, not that they folded in the second half of the season, those last 20 or 30 games, but they kind of made the playoffs, but they didn't have the momentum. They lost the division, and okay, they swept Pittsburgh, but it didn't have the team that they needed to. That was really the best of those Islander teams that could have went to a Stanley Cup. They had the defense. They didn't make the move.
I also think
the same thing.
I also think the other problem is...
Preston, I got you. I want to go to Chris because I want to move on. What would you want to say, Chris?
No, I was just going to say, think about with the Mets last year, right? You said the moves that they didn't make.
Right.
They needed a bat, and they didn't get the bat, right? They got Vogelbach and they got Ruff, right? That was their big bat. Come on, be serious. So now in the offseason, you needed that extra bat in that lineup. And what'd they do? They tried to get Correa. Okay, smart move, not getting him.
They thought they had him.
Do something. Don't just say, hey, we tried for Correa. We didn't get him. You got to make a move. And that's what I'm saying. They didn't make a move. And then they lose Diaz. They got to, strengthen that bullpen, and they never did.
You know what,
they picked up Gott.
I'll give him a
Thank you, Chris.
I'll give him a pass on the Diaz situation because that happened during the World Baseball Classic so late. But
even before that, he still needed help.
Right. But what big bat was traded really last year? JD Martinez ended up not moving. Wilson Contreras ended up not moving. So I mean, you want to talk about?
We were in the same boat last year. A lot of teams were
kind of make a move.
I would have pushed harder for JD Martinez in the offseason, but why they didn't, I don't know. And look at years after
the chips in. You put your when you got a team like you had last year at the All-Star break and getting into the trade deadline, you were like the best team in baseball. You put those chips in the center of the in the center of the table. Say, let's go. We're going for it this year.
And I think that's the
And
frustration.
hold on, the last point, Tom, real quick, because Chris made a great point, right? With Diaz, right now he got hurt, right? And again, we weren't expecting that. And Justin's right; it was late, but at the same time, your contingency plan down the road was Brigham and Hartwiggle and whoever the heck else is coming up. I mean, this is embarrassing that these
Leone,
guys are
remember you were
leaving.
complaining about Dominic Leone. You were complaining about
Dominic
him.
Leone. I mean, really? Like, this is what we're seeing? I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean,
Bruce Smith,
these are
Stephen
the guys. Come on.
Nagosic, our old friend Stephen Nagosic. These guys they all did nothing, and that was the problem with this Mets team, and that's the season we're going to remember here. And John Gonzalez also says great points. Chris also brings up Darren Ruff again. Absolutely. Listen, a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about here on Sportswire Radio.
Jamie Davis is only batting like 285. That's okay.
Well, that's predictable. But I did want to give some scores here of note before we get to closing thoughts, because obviously we're all getting ready for the deadline. Next week, I'm sure we'll resume more of this on the show. Cubs 4, Cardinals 3. Padres get another win. They're 5-4 over the Tigers. Maybe the Padres are moving in that direction. I don't know. Rays 3, Orioles nothing. Rays very much are in a lot of struggling right now in terms of what they've done this month, but they do get a much needed win. Rockies 6, Marlins 1. To Justin's point, the Marlins have free falled here. Maybe that's the team that the Mets have a little bit of glimmer of hope for. Nationals 5, Giants 3. Giants are starting to cool off after their huge winning streak. We mentioned the Yankees 5-4 over the Royals. Mets and Red Sox suspended resumes tomorrow. 4-3 Mets at the moment. Guardians 6, Phillies 5. Phillies, Brad's beloved Phillies, cooling off here a little bit. Guardians, again, kind of in this predicament where maybe they're in, maybe they're not. Reds 9, Diamondbacks 6. Reds 3 in a row. Maybe they're coming back. Diamondbacks have struggled. Dodgers 11, Rangers 5, Braves 6, Brewers 4. Could be interesting to note there. Reds and Brewers also neck and neck in the Central. Twins 9, White Sox 4. Safe to say White Sox definitely sellers. Angels 8, Pirates 5, bottom of the 8th. Angels are going to be the most interesting team, obviously, because of Ohtani. Astros 6, Athletics 4, bottom of the 8th. And the Blue Jays 1, Mariners nothing, top of the 7th. And Mariners have obviously been a disappointment this year, kind of, I guess, maybe standing pat. Blue Jays are where they should be. Scores for tomorrow of schedule of note. Yankees 105, Marlins, Rockies 110, Cubs, Cardinals 220, Rangers, Dodgers 405, 410 Blue Jays, Mariners, 410 Diamondbacks, Reds, 410 Orioles, Rays, Tigers, Padres 610, 7:05 p.m. Giants, Nationals, Mets, Red Sox 710 plus, suspended game 210. Phillies, Guardians 710, White Sox, Twins 7:15, Braves, Brewers 7:15, Pirates and Angels 9:07, and the Astros and A's 9:07 p.m. So we'll talk all of that here and plus much, much more next week on the show. Maybe we'll tease a little bit of football as well next week. Obviously, Barkley news, maybe some other thoughts, Hall of Fame game. Also, congratulations to Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff, their induction ceremony. I'm sure Chris and Patrick will talk about that. Maybe we'll give a thought on that on next week's show as well. So let's go to closing thoughts. Billy McInerney, I'm going with you first. Want to give you the floor, my friend, and obviously always enjoy having your comments. Hope to have you back here with us here for a little bit more longer as whatever you can. And anything else you want to plug, share, say, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone. Great show. Guys can see on Twitter at WMCINE. And for my closing thoughts, I don't even know. I'm looking for football season at this point. I have no thoughts on the Mets. They're not.
Yeah, I think the Mets and the Yankees.
They're not worth the time it takes to come up with a closing thought anymore.
No, I think the Mets and Yankees. It's almost like it's a done deal. I think the Yankees, okay, they're alive. All right, fine. But the Mets, to me, it's like, yeah, even if they get hot and get on a run, it's not inspiring.
The one thing I want to close with, in all seriousness, I was happy to read the Jets are not going to allow Hard Knocks in to record players getting cut this season. That's always felt very uncomfortable to watch. I don't think those conversations should be for public consumption. So, and also there's a lot of credit to Robert Saleh and the team for putting their foot down and refusing to give HBO that footage.
Absolutely. I did see that. I saw that out there, and I'm glad to hear that. And obviously, that is certainly an emotional. It's a very tough thing, and we certainly hope for the best, and we look forward to watching the show, and we'll see how the Jets and Giants do. As crazy it sounds, getting ready for the football season, not too far away. We're less than 7 weeks from now, so I'm sure guys are excited about that because baseball season has been what it was. Justin, I'm going to give you the floor, my friend. Very excited. Hot takes from you tonight. Very exciting. On point in a lot of them. Looking forward to you bringing more of that here next week on the show with us. So I turn it over to you. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? Floor is yours.
Absolutely. Great to be back talking Mets and Yankees. My focus on closing thoughts is revolving around the Open Championship with Brian Harman shooting a 6-under 65 today to take a 5-shot lead over Tommy Fleetwood. The course at Royal Liverpool has been absolutely a pain in the ass for a lot of players. So to see Harman shoot a 65 was pretty impressive. Is he going to be able to keep it up? I don't know. Because we saw the amateur. There was an amateur who shot a 5-under and ended the first day. Yeah, there he is. Christo Lamprecht. There's 5-under, tied with Tommy Fleetwood at the end of round 1, but absolutely got just destroyed in day 2, shooting an 8 over 79. And he's on the cut line at +3, so he's barely making it. And there are some big names that are missing the cut in this tournament. Dustin Johnson is getting sent home after a +13. He was just absolutely brutal these first 2 days. Phil Mickelson, who was in contention at the U.S. Open, he's getting sent home. Justin Thomas, after a very rough 82, managed to be even today. That's as good as he could have done, was even today, a 71. But the first day 82 really just ruined his momentum, and some of the top golfers just not really playing all that well. Scotty Scheffler has struggled. He's at +3. He's the number 1 golfer in the world. It's going to be really, really interesting to see, because you're looking at a potential first-time winner first-time major winner. Rory McIlroy, again, disappointing. He's sitting at -1. I do think that Harman comes back to the pack, because this course is going to be brutal the next 2 days, and I would be surprised if -10 even holds up. And I honestly think the winner could end up at -7, -8. And he falls back to the pack. These courses, these pot bunkers that are literally 20, 30 feet deep, it feels like impossible. You see, there was one guy who hit it so close to the edge of the bunker, he putted it to the middle of the bunker to have an easier shot out. I mean, if that doesn't define links golf in Europe, I don't know what does. But that's really what I'm keeping my eye on. Obviously, I'll still be watching the Mets, even though we know where their season's heading. Pretty much, this. But that's really my main focus for the weekend. Watching the Open Championship, and maybe we get a first-time winner, or maybe somebody comes storming. One of the previous champions comes storming. So you can follow me on Twitter at JGNLE12, and I'll catch you guys again next week.
Absolutely. Also, Women's World Cup is taking place as well in Australia.
USA it should be mentioned, USA gets a 3-0 win over Vietnam today to get their tournament started.
Yep. So definitely watching that. I was watching the predictions for some of that out there on ESPN and Fox, which carries the game. So that out there as well. So we look forward to that. Also, A's update from John Gonzalez. They're losing. Predictions on the Lions. We'll get to that in a couple of weeks. But thank you, John, for all that. And also, please, if you're out there, follow the Sports Authorities group on YouTube. Definitely support the Sports Authorities and all the great things they do. And Chris, want to wish you again a happy belated birthday. I hope you had a great time. Hope you continue to celebrate and the festivities continue. Want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And I also look forward to listening to the Liftoff Jets show later this weekend here on Sportswire Radio's sportnarium.com/player, and fire away.
Thank you, Tom. Great show, guys, as always. it was an interesting week for sure with the Yankees. But hopefully this win tonight kind of turns things around. I doubt it, but we'll see. And I'm looking forward to this next week or so for a lot of teams, right? Because they're on that
bubble.
Yeah, between the Yankees, the Mets, the Cubs we mentioned, the
Angels
Padres, all
we
these
spoke
teams.
about, the Padres,
Yeah,
the
so
Mariners. Yep.
It's going to be an interesting week, for a lot of these teams because it's make or break for a lot of them. So we'll definitely be covering that on Talking Rivals. We had a really good show this week, I have to say.
I enjoyed it a lot.
And Patrick actually just mentioned it to me. We're up to, I think, 1,000 plays total. Not just that show, for all of our shows. So I know it's not that big, but it's for us.
Listen, it adds up. I'll tell you what. Now listen,
Yeah.
you know what? It shows that you're going out there and you're grinding. It's a journey. It goes out. Now, that doesn't count sportnarium.com/player, by the way. You
right,
probably
yeah.
have a lot more with the radio. So I would add that your numbers
Definitely
would be, I would say significantly high. I couldn't tell you the exact number, but you definitely would have, several hundred more. Let me just put it to you that way. But, that's obviously still a tremendous accomplishment. On to the next 1,000.
Yeah, I hope so. And Liftoff as well. We had a really good show for that, covering the Jets and, kind of previewing the, camp and any questions entering camp, position battles, stuff like that. So it was a really good episode. Check it out. And, of course, we're at Talking Rivals, at Liftoff Jets on Twitter, and myself at CP7NY, and also Instagram at CP7NY as well.
Absolutely, and congratulations again on 1,000 plays. It's definitely it's a grind, it's a journey. Believe me, I always get asked from people all the time, and they say, "Well, how did you become successful in podcasting and other things?" And I said, "Well, you got to have luck, and the fact that you got to 1,000, I think, is a great accomplishment. And obviously, again, here on Sportswire, I know it's a lot more than that number. I don't have the exact over the 2 years, but you definitely could add some several hundreds to that. So congratulations. Keep up the good work. And
thank you.
Everyone can follow you on all those platforms. Rob Maraska, you're up next. I give you the floor. Anything else you want to plug, share, say? And the floor is yours, my good friend.
Great show, guys. As usual, I'm looking forward to the deadline. We'll see what happens. And just a quick mention, Tom, our Yankee clips this week did really, really well. We got a lot of views on the Yankee clips. So, thanks, guys, for retweeting them. A lot of people listened to them this week. You could get me at R. Maraska on Twitter and Rob Maraska on Facebook.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely see how these contests go, and also we'll look forward to more of those clips and having more opportunities out there for the people. So good stuff there on that. And also congratulations to Scott Rowland, and also, again, to Fred McGriff on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And we'll certainly see how his voice holds up here in these closing thoughts here, and that is the brute force Brad Weiss. I guess tentatively Monday, if you have a voice, still on Monday, if you have a voice at this point, which we don't know. So I'll have to say maybe to be announced if you are with us on Monday. Obviously, I caught one of many podcasts this week and many individuals mentioning myself, and that was the Swing the Salt guys. Obviously, Ryan and Gordon had spoke with your old coach, Mike McSway, which I continue to point out, which I'm sure somebody heard that because I had said the first interview that Mike McSway ever was given in his career was by Tom Bryce. So that's one of many, many ones that can say that. So the brute force, I turn it over to you. Obviously, I think tentatively you'll be there in Brooklyn on Sunday. And I give you the floor. And anything else you want to plug, share, say, and hope your voice holds up here in these final thoughts.
Yeah, no, I'll be fine. Listen, I have experience with this now, so I can definitely handle it. So thank you, everybody, for another great week of the show. Thank you, Rob, Billy, Justin, Chris, of course, for another great show. Thank you, John, not Jay, but John Gonzalez. For
There's an actor, Jay Gonzalez, by the way. He was in the what was the movie with Kristen Dunst years ago? I'm trying to think of that movie. It was a summer movie. It was like no, it was Jennifer Aniston. He was in the Jennifer Aniston movie where she plays like this like really weird, like it was a really under the radar role. It won her like a big award. I have to remember it. Off the air, I'll remember it.
Yeah, so thank you, John. Again, from the Sports Authorities group on Facebook. Follow him for sure. And then also Anthony Finkel, who I hope to see soon. He promised a little party. So I'm looking forward to that. And also, of course, Omen Black, who came by. So
Yes.
shout out to everybody who is supporting us tonight. To start, listen, I'm not going to waste any more time talking about bad teams, but I will talk about New York's best team. All right, New York's best team being the New
That's
York.
only good team right now. Only good team.
Well, not good, but great. The New York Liberty, who won yet again tonight against the Washington Mystics, a very good team. They got the win. So congratulations to the Liberty. As Tom said, I'm planning to be there on Sunday against the Indiana Fever. And more importantly, and I'm hoping that we can, get some more people out there, Tom Bryce, in 2 weekends, August 6th, I believe it is. It's a Sunday. The Liberty are playing the Aces. And I think that is going to be one of the best games of the year. So certainly I'm hoping to get there for that at the Barclays Center. So
Right, that's a 3
excited
o'clock
to
game.
be
That's
there.
3 o'clock.
For, again, New York's best team that really is exciting to watch. So if you haven't watched it, watch it because they're very good at basketball, and it's a very entertaining product. Now, speaking of entertaining products, you led me right in, Tom Bryce, to one of the best, maybe not as good as Chris Pizzea's podcast, but getting there, all right, that is Swing the Salt, all right?
Yes.
Certainly Swing the Salt with Gordon Choi and Ryan McNeely is certainly a fantastic watch. And
They have fans. I don't know if they have more fans than me and you, Brad, but they're certainly getting some fans. I don't know if they have as many fans as me, but
they're not with us. They're not with Chris yet, Justin. They're going to get there, though, because they are really good at what they do. They are running a great show. And this
and you know why they'll get there, Brad? Because they're not going to call out professional wrestlers. That's why they're going to get there.
Well, listen, they have some great guests in store, and
Yep.
Mike McSloy being the first one. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. With his,
He doesn't grant interviews. He does not really. He's only done. I think he did me, and I think he did somebody, if I recall, during COVID, and I think he did the guys. And this was like his 3rd or 4th interview from him. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, I mean, he was fantastic. As his coaching is fantastic, he was also great on Swing the Salt.
Yep.
That Jeopardy game was hilarious. It was a lot of fun. And obviously, Tom Bryce came up as a trivia question answer.
Well,
so that was pretty cool. And the shout out
I did watch that, by the way. I did watch that.
Yeah,
part.
so that was really cool. So again, it was just a great episode. It was nice to hear some of the things from their season. Obviously, we covered that season here on the sports.
And I thought hearing them talk about the Yeshiva game, and then even hearing them talk about the practices and like the different acronyms, I thought that was so fascinating. Hearing them talk, let's say Gordon, Ryan, and Coach, kind of talking like under the radar stuff that you wouldn't hear like outside that locker room. I thought that was very fascinating.
And for me, that gave me a lot of flashbacks to when I was there. But at the same time, for people outside of college basketball, it's pretty cool to hear what happens inside and some of those other things that you don't realize when you're just watching them play basketball. So it was a great episode. To give them a lot of credit. Give them a follow. Swing the Salt on all social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, etc. They're on all of them. So make sure you follow them. Swing the Salt. Certainly, now let's lead into another entertaining man who we have coming on Monday night. And I'll have my voice back.
I hope you do. I hope you do.
Even though I have to coach that day too, I will be ready. And that is for the man, the myth, the legend, Jason Gordieso. Okay,
one of the most married Jason Gordieso.
That is right, married Gordieso. Okay, I'm excited to talk about that, and as well as all the other great things he's doing. Obviously, we are now rivals on the 3rd grade basketball court. We'll talk more about those matchups and how those games have went and the fun stuff around that. A lot more, obviously, Malloy basketball, St. Joe's, we'll talk a little bit. There's a lot to talk about, Jason Gordieso.
I even want to talk about the CUNY a little bit because, he was a coach at City College there for a bit.
Yes, so that's a lot. And speaking of City College, that is one of the teams that James D. Simone's Misericordia team is going to be going up against this season. So there's a lot to talk about. Coach Gordieso, very excited. He's a great guy. So I'm looking forward to that interview.
I actually think we're the ones, Brad, that actually get the – I hope I'm not going to get shot for this, but I think we're going to have the more entertaining interview. I will guarantee you that much.
Yeah, that's true. So, listen, Monday night with Gordieso. Okay, I believe we're going to start at
9. I think we're looking at between 9 and 9:30 with you, something like that with your schedule, so that's fine.
Right. So, be sure to tune in with us, and we also have some great interviews in the future. We're hoping to have on the legendary Kelly Dempsey as well as James DeSimone.
Yes,
who
I want to
looking
get
forward-
James on one more time before he leaves. Correct.
You know, we have a bunch of other guests coming on as we get closer and closer, Tom Bryce, to the basketball season. I mean,
October 15th, not that far away. I was speaking
No,
with somebody
so we
about that yesterday.
we got a lot to talk about for sure. But speaking of one more thing I have to mention, because it's happening this weekend, the Brute Force is going back on the basketball court. We're playing in the Never Say Die
Yes, I saw the alumni tournament. Yeah.
alumni tournament over at SUNY Old Westbury. The opponent we're playing is New High Park tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And by the way, New High Park has a guy you know, Joe Gocha, who's on
our
the
buddy Joe Gocha. Yes, Joe Gocha.
So
Interesting guy, Joe Gocha.
He's on the team, and they'll be facing off against each other tomorrow. SUNY Old Westbury, very familiar place for myself.
I know. You had some of your best moments there.
So certainly I'm excited for this tournament starting tomorrow. So make sure you follow that tournament as well.
And
on
is Nick
social media.
Dimmick is playing with you tomorrow?
Yes, he is. He'll be there. So again, we have a lot of great people there. Alan Duratovic, another former
Yes,
guest.
Alan came on here during COVID. Yes, Alan had a very, very interesting story, interesting journey.
Yeah.
Really, really under the radar kind of guy. That's a good one. Yep, Alan Duratovic, our old friend.
So again, I'm excited for that event. As I was for today's Long Island Nets event, we had a clinic here locally in Manhasset. So shout out to the Long Island Nets as well. But like I said, I got a short voice, so I got to rest it.
I think these days between your schedule and my schedule, you might want to say who's more busier and, who's got more free time on their hands. I think if you...
That is true. But with that being said, being busy isn't a bad thing. So
no, you know what? I tell you what, it's not. It's never a dull moment. So was the famous...
Exactly. So thank you guys for the beginning of the show. Looking forward to next week. And again, for everybody, just get used to this voice because I have camps lined up for the next 5 weeks or so. So
this is summer. Listen, this is it. Between now and pretty much the end of August, that's pretty much you're in camp mode. It's always in basketball land. This is the moment.
Oh, one last thing. I was working on our picks league and fantasy football this week. So be sure to stay ready for that because we're getting ready for the picks. We're getting ready for fantasy. So I'm looking forward to that. And John Gonzalez.
Like I said before, football is not that far away.
So I'm getting ready. I'll be sure to send you guys out the invite pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to taking down John Gonzalez.
Well, we'll see if it's Jay Gonzalez, John Gonzalez, Jay Gonzalez without the A or the Y. But I know one thing, Brad Weiss, you want to follow him on Instagram at bweiss20, Brad Weiss20 on Twitter, Bradley Weiss on Facebook and Snapchat, and I'm sure you can see him on TikTok as well, and also Coach Brad Weiss on Instagram as well. And Level Up Long Island Basketball doing a lot of great clinics out there. I also want to congratulate our friend Corey Jakes. Corey was a part of an award. Also, shout out to our Golden Eagles. Golden Eagles, a lot of players were a part of the Honor Roll Excellence Award for the NABC, so that's a big deal. Obviously, some of the John Jay guys I saw were in that as well. So very, very good to see the program and the guys working hard, not only on the court, but in the classroom. Bodes very well, I think, for next season. And not that far away, October the 15th. Kind of when, Brad, backyard wrestling ends, we go right into the basketball court. Because in the backyard world, the wrestling season kind of ends around October 15th because the weather starts to get cold. So in wrestling, backyard wrestling, you can't wrestle. So that means we go right into basketball. So it'll be a good time. We'll die down a little bit from that and get to cover the Golden Eagles, obviously the five-town sound, maybe bring back some of the CUNY team. I know we have some alumni that are going to come on as well. Danny Burns, our old buddy Danny Burns says hello, so looking forward to Danny. And I'm sure Gordon will be on with us because he is going to certainly be a very, very wanted commodity. But I want to thank everybody that is tuned in here tonight on Sportswire Radio. We were here with Billy McInerney, Justin Gianelli, who brought the fire tonight, Chris Bizea, birthday boy this week, Liftoff Jets, Talking Rivals reached 1,000 plays on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. Rob Maraska, contest man, the man that may still have a voice for the time being, going to be back on the basketball court this weekend, also watching in Brooklyn, the Brute Force Brad Weiss. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. And if you're on YouTube and Twitter, I'm back 7 p.m. Eastern time with Captain Law himself, or Jason Law, as somebody might say, from XCW and more. So excited about that. But I want to thank everybody here for tuning in. Congratulations to Scott Rowland and also Fred McGriff on the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that next week. Also, trade deadline. NFL's Hall of Fame weekend next week also is starting as well. So a lot to get into here. Sports is coming back. And thank you, everybody. Thank you to John Gonzalez, Anthony Finkel, Omen Black, Josh Allen, the Painmaker, and everybody else here that tuned in on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire